Hello again, this is Jared from TechWorks, and I'm here with you for my full review of the iPhone X. So, it's been a full week since the iPhone X has came out, and I've been using it every day since, and this video is going to be all about what I like, what I dislike, and pretty much the full review, full length, longer than 7 minutes sort of review. Go through some tips, some tricks, some things I like, things I don't like, basically just a little bit of everything. And we'll go from there. So overall, the iPhone X, is definitely the best iPhone out right now. That's without question. The camera is remarkable. The screen is, their first OLED screen. It's their first really nice screen. Of course, the screen did come from Samsung, and it is now rated one of the very best screens. The report just came out in the last few days. But really, there's not a bad thing about this phone going for it right now, besides a few little iOS bugs with the letter I and things like that. So just briefly going over things that I like. I took it on vacation this weekend, and some of the photos were just fantastic. I'll put some in the video when I'm talking about it. They were absolutely stunning. Some of the best photos I ever took, and that was great. Battery life has been fantastic. It is pretty comparable to the 8 Plus or 7 Plus, just because it is a bigger screen, so it's more pixels that is pushing. That obviously is going to use more battery in the long run. But overall, I can definitely make it through a day without an issue. I don't have to charge that much. It is nice having fast charge now, what Android users have been having for a very long time. And just to get it straight, I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible because I was a heavy Android user, and I've also been a long-time Apple fan. Coming to the last two iPhones, I was on the Note 8, and I was also on the Galaxy S8, and I've used OnePlus devices, and I've had just about one of everything. So I'm trying to be as impartial as I can be. So obviously, a lot of diehard Apple fans are going to be going nuts over these fast charge and control center at the top, tap to wake, all this sort of thing. And in reality, it is an Android thing. It has been an Android thing for a while. I think the S6 was the first phone to come out with wireless charging, a glass back, fast charge, things like that. So it's been done before without a doubt. But I will hand it to Apple. A lot of times, I'll say manufacturers like Samsung will implement, say, way back in the day, the infrared sort of attention feature, to where you're watching a video, it was supposed to look away and stop, and when you look back at it, it would start again. And it was kind of half-baked. I will say Apple, when they do put in a feature, say, like the removal of the home button, they really do it well, and they really do make sure that there's no bugs going on. I can say without a question that they do it very well. So I just wanted to get that kind of off the plate first. So I would absolutely recommend this phone right now to anybody. I think it's great. I like the form factor. I think it's nice and compact. It reminds me a lot of the feel of the Essential phone had. And I did have that. I was on the early list to get it. And I did get it, and I used it for honestly not that long because I was super disappointed with the camera. But obviously Apple has some really great cameras, and this one is no exception to the last few years. So overall, the experience has been pretty foolproof. Really, just overall a great phone. I can't say enough about it. I'm so glad that I got it at November 3rd. I'm glad I pre-ordered it. But really, you are still buying an iPhone, and a lot of what made iPhone great in the past is obviously still here. You have the iOS ecosystem, your Apple Watch, it works with your Mac computer. All that stuff is still there. The core of this phone isn't new. I would say most of what's new is the aesthetic. The full screen, the bezel, the no home button. All that stuff is new, and a lot of under the hood stuff too. Processor, quick charge, dual OIS, all that stuff that you wouldn't, just look over the phone and be like, oh, dual OIS. You're not really going to notice that at first glance unless you're a nerd like me. So, it's still an iPhone. It's still going to be that same great iPhone experience that you've been having for a long time. So there's going to be no surprises there. The biggest thing obviously is getting used to the new home button. And I will say it did take some getting used to, switching from apps or going to Safari, and instead of, clicking your home button, a lot of people don't know that you can just go from a tab, say Safari, and just swipe right over that home bar, I'm going to call it, in this video. So you can just swipe left to right and go back, or to go up and get to your switcher, you just kind of go up and hold it a little bit. So you go up, kind of hold it, and boom, there it is. Or you can kind of swipe to the right. But I do want to touch on what I really don't like about this phone, and there is a few things. There's always going to be a few things. Obviously, the biggest negative against this phone is the price. So this phone was the 256 gig T-Mobile unlocked variant, coming in at a grand total with tax of $1,240. Easily the most expensive cell phone I have ever purchased, ever. And really, that's a lot of money. There's a lot of shit you can do for almost $1,300, not including Apple Care and a screen protector and a case, which is almost a complete must with this phone. So there's been one YouTuber in particular which swears that this phone is nearly indestructible, but by any account, this iPhone is the most fragile iPhone and the most expensive iPhone to fix so far in existence. And the reason being is that these new designs with the glass back and everything, it's kind of adhered to the chassis of the phone. And if you break this back piece, you basically are going to have to replace this whole chassis, and Apple's going to charge you about $600 to do it if you don't have Apple Care. The front screen is a few $100. I don't know the exact statistic. I think it was close to $300 to fix the screen without Apple Care. That's a lot. You're basically, if you break this back panel, you're paying as much to fix the back as you could buy a OnePlus device, which I know the new OnePlus is coming out in a week or so. That's absolutely bananas to me. Even the Note 8 was cheaper than this, and I'm not going to say which was better. It's going to be a preference thing, but that phone does a hell of a lot of stuff, and it's actually said to be easier to fix, and it's cheaper to start with. So, take that as you may. So I've been fixing iPhones for a long time, and honestly, these past few iterations, I don't even really want to fix, because it's just too much going on. And if you watch people like jerry rig everything or visit the site iFixit, iPhones used to be pretty easy to fix. 2 screws, pop up the screen. If your screen was broken, take off a few ribbon cables and done. Now everything is adhesive together, which is great for waterproofing. But again, if you go to fix your phone and you have a new Samsung or Apple or any other device that has waterproofing, you take the screen off, your waterproofing is gone. This back panel, I saw someone take it off just recently, and you have to use a heat gun or freeze it in liquid nitrogen. And it's just unrealistic to fix anymore. It's beyond fixing, which, is kind of unfortunate, because you're spending all this money, and then if it breaks, you have to, again, spend almost half of what the device costs you to fix it. And I think that's kind of just really absurd. And I will go on the back of that saying that if you're spending this much money, this device should be a little more structurally sound, I should say. I mean, I know this doesn't bend or break like the other iPhones did, and it doesn't have weak spots, because jerry rig everything has proved it in his extreme tests of bending it and scratching it. They're definitely made very well, but it's also very fragile. So glass obviously is great for wireless charging and aesthetics and a lot of other things, but it's also very fragile. And I know Apple claims this is the strongest glass they've ever used in a phone, but at the end of the day, glass is glass, and as soon as you get a scratch, any sort of scratch in this, that creates a compromise in the glass piece, and it's all that more easy to break just by a simple drop or a simple bump. Especially if you like to use your phone naked, without a case. One scratch on the front or the back, and you basically compromise the entire panel. You could be one drop away from completely shattering it, which, is kind of bananas. And I will go back to the Essential phone for the only reason of I was extremely impressed with their build quality. So Apple right now is using the glass and a stainless steel rail, which is great. Stainless steel is a lot harder than aluminum. It's going to be a lot more structurally supportive than aluminum is in their other iPhones. But what Essential Phone did is they actually used ceramic, a polished ceramic back piece with titanium around the edges, and now that phone just got a discount to be around $500. Those materials are extremely premium and make an extremely solid device. And really that makes it so it's going to be more durable. They even claim that, they didn't want you to use a case because you didn't need one. That's not saying it's impervious. That phone also wasn't waterproof and it, had its own faults. But it goes to show you that people can make a phone that looks premium with premium materials that will make it a little more usable for the long time you're going to have it. A lot of people aren't just going to go switch phones every couple months. A lot of people don't even switch phones every year. So you're going to have this for a really long time. And I'm going to make the quick prediction that with how expensive this phone is, you're going to have a lot of people walking around with either cracked screens or cracked back panels just because of the cost it's going to be to do so. So with the iPhone 10 and the iPhone 8 Plus, Apple did introduce fast charge, but of course they did not give you a fast charger in the box. They give you the old tried and true normal power brick. So if you actually are looking to use fast charge, you're going to either have to get a 29 watt adapter from Apple. You can use an iPad adapter, but again, that's not a 29 watt. It's like a 12 or 12 and a half or something. But basically, from tests and what they recommend, they say the 29 watt is the go-to power for if you need a new fast charge. And it makes it so your iPhone charges within like an hour and 45 minutes versus I think like 4 hours or some shenanigans like that. Just a normal 5 watt. I actually hook it up to my 15-inch MacBook Pro USB-C power adapter, which is 87 watts. I don't know if it makes it go any faster, but placebo effect, I think it does. So that's kind of one thing that I do wish. You're again $1,200. I want this to come with all the shit I need. I don't want to have to go buy other stuff just to get the features that I paid for. Same with wireless charging, and I'm not saying they should include a wireless charger in the box, but Apple's Power Mat isn't out yet, where you can charge your watch, your AirPods, and your phone. So I'm actually using my Samsung Quick Charge wireless charger. Not that it, I don't think it quick wirelessly charges, but I charge it overnight. It's less stress on your lightning port, things like that. So I do use that pretty much every day. I got my AirPods that work with this. I can't say a lot of bad things about the phone, other than you're absolutely, if you're gonna have it and use it every day, and no matter what you do in the world, whatever your job is, you're going to want a case. Even if it's, right now I'm just using the Apple silicone case, which is fairly nice. It's not that protective, it's slim, but I'm actually going to be, since I ordered one of the UAG cases, and I'm probably going to be using that for day to day, just because it's a little more protective, it's pretty slim, and it's not going to, hinder what's going on with the phone. But you're going to need a case, so there's a cost. And honestly, Apple Care was almost a must when I saw the actual repair prices of this phone, and the fact that even myself being someone who has repaired these phones, I don't want to repair them. I don't want to take them apart. I don't even want to take apart the 8s just because of how much more complicated and how many more steps there is instead of just taking 2 screws out and lifting the screen off. It's transcended that, tenfold. So those are my 2 big caveats. Other than that, really, there's a lot of great things about the phone. A lot of apps now are getting support for the iPhone X display. And a lot of people are complaining about the notch, and the notch is ridiculous, or, it's kind of stupid. But honestly, after you use it for even a day, it just becomes part of it. I actually kind of like the separation between you have your time, or if you're in a call, or like today I was tethering, so that comes up over here, and then you have your cell service, Wi-Fi, whatever, over here. So obviously the control panel on top is not a shameless ripoff from Apple, but control panel or notification shade or whatever you want to call it from the top was an Android thing for a very long time. Apple obviously put their spin on it, and it looks great with 3D touch. You can go up, down, whatever. and it's great. I think it's a great implementation. You don't have battery percentage now in the normal top bar like you could always toggle on or off before. Now you have to bring down your notification or your control center shade, and then of course you have your notifications over here, which brings it down. So on to that, we can talk about Face ID for a second. So again, there was plenty of people who said, oh, Face ID, it doesn't work in the nighttime, or, I've had a really hard time with it. So over the weekend, like I said, I was on vacation. I was using the phone late at night, taking pictures, looking at it, whatever. And I'll say an honest, solid 80% of the time, Face ID works the first try, no problem. You just pick up your phone, look at it quick, unlocks. I will say the whole process does take longer than Touch ID, and I will say that it'll probably get quicker in the future just because Apple is very good at updates, and I've already read articles now that they are looking to make an iPad Pro that has Face ID and a full screen display and all that stuff. So it's staying. It's staying. Touch ID is gone. Shout out to Nolan this time for coming up in the video here. But Face ID is going to be around. That's their new technology. That's going to be Apple's new stick. It's probably going to show up in Macs. It's probably going to show up all across their product line because they probably just invested a whole shitload of money into it. So they're going to want to use it. And it's only going to get better, just like Touch ID has only gotten better up until now. So I'd say 80% of the time it worked. That was whether it was pitch black, I was sitting by a campfire and it worked, in full light in a dimly lit bar. I mean, it works. I'd say 80%. I'll give it a B on the report card. It does work very well. Face ID for Apple Pay also, again, works just the same. And a lot of apps that had the Touch ID support for banking or whatever, it does work with Face ID pretty much right out of the gate. I'm sure they're going to be updating it to have it say Face ID instead of Touch ID. But right now it's kind of a simple thing to get over as long as it works. I know my banking, I can just look at it, log in, boom, I'm in and done. That's great. Outside of that, like I mentioned before, the camera is great. It did get a 97 on DxOMark, and there has been videos about, the rankings of DxOMark. And for people who don't know, DxOMark is a company that rates mobile photography cameras as well as professional photography cameras, your DSLR cameras, things like the Red camera, lenses, all sorts of stuff. And there's a rating system, and a lot of people assumed the rating system was out of 100, but if people actually will go and look on DxOMark for the iPhone 10, you'll see that the actual photo score is broken down to photo, video, and an overall. Photo is 101. There has been YouTubers who did, kind of like an in-depth, and DxOMark's ratings will get over 100. That's inevitable at this point. It's not out of 100, it's almost out of an arbitrary scale. I mean, they have a really good test bench setup, and they do sort of show you what is going on, with zoom, with the bokeh effect, with stabilization, color balance, the whole thing. They're very good at what they do. So big manufacturers can buy into DxOMark and basically use their test bench setups to prove how good and or bad, their camera setups are going to be. So take it with a grain of salt what a DxO rating is, but for those of you who care about the ratings, this is a 97. The Pixel XL2, or the Pixel 2 and Pixel XL2 came out at 98. Again, they're probably rated on different things. I didn't look up the scores and compare them, but I know, for example, before this iPhone 10 came out, I was looking at the Note 8 as well as the iPhone 8 Plus, and they ranked the same, but the Note 8 had better for zoom and bokeh because you could adjust the bokeh effect, and the iPhone 8 had better, I believe it was color profiling and saturation. So again, they can be rated the same and yet still be different, and that's fine. But again, for people who care about the benchmarks, the specs, it is 1 point below the Pixel XL, and Pixel XL has one lens. This has the telephoto setup. Overall, I'm glad I got this phone. I'm glad Apple made this phone. There was articles saying this was supposed to be out in 2018. They needed to release this phone this year, because if not, truly they would be behind, and I've been a firm believer that Apple has kind of been behind the 8 ball recently, just with what they've been doing and their quote unquote innovations. Because really, to be honest, a lot of the key features here have been used and have been done before, just not in the Apple ecosystem, which again, that's totally fine. I'm not ripping. I'm glad that fast charge, wireless charge, all that stuff is in the iPhones, because that's what I loved about Android. But I always did have a special spot for iOS, because this was really, the iPhone was one of my first smartphones. I had a BlackBerry, but the full touchscreen, that first phone for me was an iPhone 4. So I've loved the iOS for a very long time, and I'm glad it now has some of the great features that Android does have. And actually, keynote day, I was talking with one of my friends, and we were talking about how really we think that Google is kind of coming into terms of being an Apple-esque company, locking down Android a little bit more, with their phones, making it what they want. And really, at that point, I told him, I said, I might as well get an iPhone, because at the time I was with the Samsung Note 8, and I said, if they're going to keep everything really locked down, I would rather go into the iPhone then, because it does work with my MacBook, it does work with my iPad, or whatever else you got, and it's consistent. I know that if Apple says Face ID is on this thing, Face ID is going to work. I know with Samsung, if they say that there's a bazillion different features, that probably half of them are going to work. And it's not just a Samsung thing, there's a lot of manufacturers that do that. So I will say that, Apple phones in the past and now have had less, again, quote unquote, features, but I will say that every feature on this phone does work as advertised, with the one exception of saying that their glass is super duper strong, which I would have to say to Mr. Tim Cook, well, glass is glass, man. It's gonna break if you land a rock on it. So with that, is this phone worth the $1,200? That's gonna kind of be up to you. This phone takes great pictures. It does take better pictures than the 8 Plus. It does take better pictures than the 7 Plus. It has the same internals as the 8 Plus, but obviously the screen's different, the Face ID is different. You got portrait mode in the front of the camera with the front-facing camera, which again, I'll put a photo. I will put a photo in the video of some of the effects. And again, even that has some work with the front-facing camera, like the stage lighting, things like that. Like sometimes it'll pick up pieces of your hair, or it will forget pieces of your hair, and you get a weird, sort of effect going on, but it's getting there. And just the plain bokeh effect with the foreground in focus, the background unfocused, it's came a long way, and it looks great almost every time. So bottom line, I love this phone. I'm going to be using this phone hopefully for a very long time, unless something really blows me out of the water in the next couple months. There is a lot of big things coming around the corner, but my plan is to use this phone absolutely for the immediate future. And who knows, maybe I'll have it again at this time next year. I do switch phones a lot, so that might not happen, but this phone is great. I've been using it every day. I will continue to use it every day. I wish it was cheaper. I wish they could make it where you could have it naked and it won't break if you look at it the wrong way. And I wish repairs just weren't so damn expensive, but it seems to be the road that every manufacturer is going down, is more expensive, more stuff, just more everything. So I can't be too upset about that, especially when other manufacturers are, right on their heels as far as price is concerned. If you're looking for an iPhone and you're not looking for the same old design used 3 years in the past, this is obviously the go-to. It's a great phone. It's fast, it's responsive, Face ID works great, the camera is great, the speakers sound nice, the build quality is top notch. Other than that, the price, the durability are my only two bugaboos. That's what bothers me the most, is that I wish for $1,200, I want this thing to fucking save my life, stop bullets and things like that, but that's not gonna happen. So this is Jared from TechWorks. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the review. If I do pick up some other smartphones in the near future, I will absolutely keep this in comparison. I will definitely show it off as a who's who or what's what. I was gonna get a Pixel XL2 and try to do a comparison of the top dog Android and this guy, but they've been having some really crazy issues, and I really don't feel like wasting money on that at the moment. But stay tuned in the future for some more videos. Stay tuned for maybe some more iPhone stuff. I know I've done a lot of Apple products, and it's not just going to be an Apple channel, I swear, but it's just kind of what I got my hands on. And unfortunately, you know, you got to play off the trend. So this is what's hot right now, and that's my video, and I'll see you guys later.